All right. Well, hello, everyone. Today I have Megan with me. She is another one of those fantastic moms I found on Instagram. And she is a mama to one little girl, and she also has another little girl on the way, which is super exciting for you. So, welcome, Megan. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Well, technically, I guess there's one and a half of you right there. So,
Yes, having us.
So tell me a little bit how you got into this business. How did you find your passion for these bows and turbans that you do for the little ones?
It was kind of out of the blue. I'm actually a biology major, and so I'm going into school to be an ultrasound tech, and I needed just an extracurricular activity or class to take. And it was when I was pregnant with my first one. I took a sewing class because I was like, oh, mom should know how to sew and stuff and like know how to fix things or whatever. And I actually really liked like sewing, and it came natural to me, which I felt like when I was younger, I tried sewing and it didn't go well at all. But something about maybe nesting or whatever, being pregnant, I don't know, becoming a mom was like made me advance or something. So while I was in the class, I just kind of made little bows, and I was like, oh, this is actually like really easy and really fun, and and it's cheap too, because otherwise buying bows is so expensive. And I was like, I'm sick of buying expensive baby stuff. Like, if there's something I could make that can be cheap, great, I'll do it. So then I started asking my friends. I was like, hey, I bought this whole yard of fabric and I don't know what to do with it. So if anyone wants any, you know, message me and I'll make you one. And I actually got a lot of like comments saying like, oh my gosh, so cute. Like, I'd love to buy them from you. I was like, oh, sure, I'll take your money.
Yeah.
And my husband, his whole family is like super into like having their own business and being their own boss. He was like, you could do this, you could make this into a business. I was like, uh sure, I'll give it a go, I guess. And so I just bought more fabric and made more bows, and one thing led to another, and here I am kind of having my own business. So
That's super
kind of
fantastic.
yeah, super unexpected, but I'm happy the way things have like just smoothly transitioned into it.
So how long have you been doing it now then?
Technically a year. I did take a break because I went back to school, and so I was like, I can't keep up with orders and going to school and having a baby. So I took a break for a while, and I actually just restarted it back up last month. So, and it's been going really good.
That's so exciting. And I think it's really such a fun option. And I bet you would have never thought when you were going to school for something completely different that you could do a whole different like business at
Mm-hmm.
home and have that flexibility to be the mom that you need to be and kind of pull it all together, which is super awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So what would you recommend for training? I mean, I know that you took a sewing class at school, but I mean, if a girl wants to learn how to do something, she just needs to find a lady with a sewing machine, probably, right?
Yeah, totally. And I actually bought my own sewing machine for like $90 on Facebook Market. And so it's like, just buy one and try it out. And it doesn't take a whole lot. I usually use one stitch. And so it's just kind of like very simple. And there's, luckily in this world, we have YouTube and Google to help kind of watch extra videos or whatever to figure out what we're doing. But yeah, as far
So
as training goes, you don't really need a ton. I guess it's more of like training yourself on like, okay, what's gonna work for me, what's not.
yeah, and maybe just how to use a sewing machine.
Hmm.
I don't know much about sewing. I can sew like a pillow cover, super basic stuff, but it can be a little bit frustrating just to learn how to thread the sewing machine and like to keep it threaded. Because if you're a rookie like me, like it keeps coming out, and it's super frustrating. So I guess just learning those basic skills. In your class, did they actually teach you how to make a bow, or how did you even think, okay, I'm going to just make a bow?
So we actually made pillowcases. Like we made like a pillowcase and an apron, and then for our final we had to like create something or whatever. And so I was like, well, I've got a girl that she was born the week of finals, and so I was like, I'll make bows or some kind of baby something. And bows was like the easiest thing because I was like, I'm not making like a shirt or anything that's way too advanced. Even for me still, I don't know how to do that. I stick to bows.
Those turbans look a little bit complicated though. Is that something that you slowly transitioned into? Have you thought about trying anything different than that?
um yeah, so I do top knots as well, and that takes me a lot longer because a lot of it is hand stitching, and so I can't even use my sewing machine. And that was, it was challenging at first. Like the first one I made, it literally looked like a doorknob on top of her head, and I was like, oh, this is not cute. So but other than that, I kind of just stick to those two things because that's like what I know and what I'm comfortable with. And I feel like until I get something like, till I get really good at something, I don't want to like put it out there for the world to like buy or whatever, criticize. So
Yeah. And now that I hear you saying that too, every single mom that I've talked to in all these different little niches and industries, they are very specific as well. They just like pick a couple things and then they just stick to it. And it's been so good for them. So I think that's actually really smart. So, and you have a market for it, you're doing well. So that's all that matters, and you're getting things going. So you said it wasn't super expensive to actually get this business rolling on your end. You obviously have to have a sewing machine, but the materials themselves are not too bad.
yeah, I just buy like a yard of the fabric at a time, and I just say, oh, um, you can typically get like 20 to 30 bows out of each yard.
Oh,
So
wow.
you get quite a bit out of like such little materials, which is really nice. And then thread, you get like a little spindle of it for $1. So it's starting out, the business isn't super expensive, and it's really easy to make your money back, which is really nice. Um, but I would say to start out with the sewing machine and all the materials, it probably cost me about $200-300.
Yeah, which
But
isn't
I
bad at
made
all.
that back pretty fast. I
So,
mean, I went with the cheaper
yeah,
business.
which is perfect. And there's so many women out there, young moms, and maybe teens considering what their mom first career could be. Um, and obviously, the more affordable it is, the better. Did you already have a pretty decent social media following when you started this out? So when you actually started posting, when you posted that initial question,
Mm-hmm.
were you able to get word out, or did it take a little bit of work on your end to kind of get that following that you needed to grow yourself and to sell more product?
Luckily for me, going to school, a lot of my friends, we were all pregnant at like the same time. And so I already had kind of like that network of like, okay, you're having a baby girl. Like, do you want a bow? And so it was pretty easy for me to just say, hey, who's got a girl? And I can make you a bow. And so luckily it was very marketable. And so getting it up and running didn't take a whole lot of effort. Kind of to keep it going though did,
Yeah.
because they were like, okay, I have a couple bows, I'm good. And it's like, well, now I have to buy new fabric and keep it interesting and keep it going. And so yeah, I would say that's like the only hard thing about it is like, okay, what fabric or what like pattern are people gonna want, and
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I like this, but no one else does. Or, it's like finding that balance of like, okay, how many people are going to like this? How many aren't? And just trying to figure out that balance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point to think about. Just trying to find something that a majority of people are going to love, so you don't waste buying that fabric on something. So, you you have, is Instagram your main social media platform or only platform that you really
hmm
post on?
Yeah. Instagram and Facebook, mainly Instagram though, because that's where I feel like a lot of like younger
Yeah.
moms are, and they're like,
Mhm.
look at my cute babe. And some even have like Instagrams just for their baby. And so I'm like
Oh,
always like trying to hit them up. I'm like, oh my gosh, so cute. Like,
uh-huh. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's really clever. That's a good way to do it. And then you must be hitting like all of the little pop-up shops and like boutiques, and
hmm
because are you selling at the Barn Boutique?
Yes, I will be there. So,
Fantastic. So about how many of those do you hit per year? Do you just do a few so you don't overwhelm yourself, or do you like to be pretty consistent?
um, I like to do as much as I can, but I mean, with almost 2-year-old baby on the way, there's only so much I can do, and it's just me. I don't have like anyone else
Right.
working for me or anything. So it's like, as long as I'm able to keep those orders, then great. I'll take on like as many projects as I can, or opportunities I
Yeah.
can. But if I ever feel like overwhelmed, luckily with having a small business, I can say,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm just going to take a break or whatever.
That is what's so wonderful about it too, is right now is a really busy time in your life and littles need tons of attention. So
Mhm.
you can just slowly do what you need to do, and then when they get a little bit more independent, if you wanted to go wild with it, you probably could, and that would be a few years down the road where you really would have a good following, which is kind of exciting to think about. Are the little vendor events that you do, are they, for the most part, are they pretty affordable to jump into and take part of?
Totally. Most of them are farmers market here that we do, which I don't know if they're going to be open this summer, which will make me really sad, but
Mm,
you know, COVID is taking over the world. It's fine,
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
um, they're only, it's pretty cheap. I want to say it's like uh, 10, $20 a weekend or whatever.
Oh, that
And
is really good.
yeah, and you can usually, make that and then some. And I mean, that's where a lot of locals like to go and see different things, and you just get so many more like followers and just tons of new customers that become eventually regulars.
Yeah, that's so great. So how many hours would you say you put in a day right now with having a little that's super busy and needs your attention? Is it just like a couple hours? How do you make it work time-wise?
It kind of varies because sometimes I get like a lot of orders in one week, and then the next week I'll have like just a couple or
Mhm.
whatever. So it kind of like some days I'm like, okay, I have like 20 bows to make today, so just dad take her out or whatever, somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
um, but I would say overall I spend maybe an hour, if that, a day.
That's so nice.
So
That really is. Out of all the things you could be doing, that's a really nice amount of time to put in and get a little bit money back for that. Um, what are your favorite parts and least favorite parts of making bows?
um sometimes I buy fabric that is like really cute but really hard to work with, and so
Yeah.
I'm like, now this is like a fan favorite and everyone's ordering it, and now I have to sew it so many times, and I'm just like, why did I do this to myself?
Right.
In the end, it turns out, to be worth it, but it's just like, I have to keep myself away from those fabrics. um, but I think my most favorite part about having a small business is making these little connections to other people and their businesses and learning what their tactics are, and just kind of having that compare and contrast, and working with people. I mean, so many of my friends have like reached out to me saying like, hey, I'd love to help you out with your business. I'm like, great, like, thank you, and
Mhm.
it's just been awesome to be able to work with so many different people and all of their talents and kind of mashing them together.
That is fun. It's a fun little network that everyone has going, which is super great and something you need as a mom too. You got to have those friends and people you can reach out to and kind of communicate with.
Totally.
So, do you have any advice for teens to get an idea if sewing, and it could really be anything, would be a good fit for them, something that they would enjoy enough that they could possibly turn into a career for them in the future? What are your thoughts there?
I would just say, just don't be afraid to try it, even if it's something that you are not expecting to go into. And if you have like an idea and it seems almost like out of reach,
Mhm.
it's totally doable. You can make it happen. You just have to like not be able not be afraid to like push yourself and to ask people for help. Like, hey, I know this guy who's like really good with computers. I'm horrible with computers. Like, maybe he can train me or whatever, and then I can really get this thing going or whatever. Just like, don't be afraid to try, and don't like sell yourself short of like, I can't do that, because you can totally do anything.
I really like that. And it made me think while you were saying that taking part in these vendor events is a really good way to just see all the different ideas that moms have come up with, because a lot of these things I would have never even thought of, but there's so many options out there. And just like what you're doing, it can be a lot easier than you think just to kind of get that ball rolling. You just got to jump in and try it. And I do think there's a lot of talents that we have and we just haven't discovered yet. And we just got to kind of try things out so we can find those and kind of run with them.
Yeah, totally.
So, is there any advice that you have for teens before we wrap up today? Anything that you want to leave with them based on your experience, or kind of what you want with life, or what you've experienced so far in being a mom that you think could be helpful for them moving forward?
Um, I would say, ooh, this is a tough one.
I know.
It's definitely easier to get things done before having kids,
Right.
but um, with having kids, it's just as manageable as long as you are willing to put forth the effort. Because really, that's all it takes to build any sort of business is effort, and how much um, you're willing to sacrifice to make it work. Because in the end, your payoff will always come. And there's like this quote that me and my husband like live by. It's like, live like how people don't want to for the first 10 years or so that way you can live the rest of your life like everybody wants to but can't, because they're not willing to sacrifice enough. So I would say just give it your all, and you'll do great. And if you don't, you literally have nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
it's worth a shot.
And I'm sure it's made you a better person. I'm sure it's made you grow in ways that you didn't know you could grow, right?
Totally. Yeah. Like, I didn't really know anything about having my own business, and I have learned so much. Like, not only in how to run a business and how to make things for that business, but also like what I potentially can do. So
That's wonderful. Well, that's a perfect place to stop our little interview today. Thank you so much. You did such a great job, Megan. I'm excited that I found you on Instagram. I will follow you. My girls are teenagers now, but if I have a baby to buy something for, I know where to go. And so I'm just super excited that you found this, and it's just a fun option to share with those teenagers. So thank you so much for your time today. And
Thank you so much.
we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.